Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest challenges for a growing company, how to build a global team. We're going to break down the complex art of international expansion and turn it into a clear, actionable playbook. So let's just jump right in. Every single growing company, and maybe that's you, eventually hits this wall. It's a huge, high-stakes question. And getting it wrong? Well, that can cost you everything. Customers, top talent, all your momentum. But getting it right? Man, that's how you build a global powerhouse. So here's how we're going to tackle this. We're building this playbook together, step by step. First, we'll look at the big picture principles, your strategic compass. Then, we'll get into the architectural blueprint for your global sites. After that, it's all about the people plan, who you actually put in those seats. And finally, we'll talk about the operational engine that makes the whole thing hum. All right, first things first. Before you even think about putting a pin on a map, you need a compass. Right? You need some guiding principles. These are the foundational truths, the absolute non-negotiables that are going to shape every single decision you make about where you go. And here they are. Think of these 5 principles. Follow the power, follow the talent, build for support, leverage location tiers, and heed regulation. Think of them as your North Star. They're going to tell you exactly where you should be, and maybe even more importantly, where you should definitely not be. Okay, this first one is huge, especially if your business is all about relationships. I mean, think about it. How do you actually build real influence? You got to have your people in the room where it happens, or at the very least, in the same city where those critical decisions are being made. Let's make this real. Here's a story straight from the trenches. So you've got this team, right? They've spent years building these amazing relationships with a key client in Dallas. Everything's going perfectly, and then bam, the client's entire leadership team, the whole center of power, just up and moves to Atlanta. Literally overnight, every connection they had, gone, vanished. So when the team finally gets to Atlanta, they're starting from absolute zero. I'm talking ground zero. They had to rebuild every single relationship from scratch. They were basically seen as these outsiders from some irrelevant office in Dallas. It's just a brutal, painful lesson in what it costs when you're not where the power is. Okay, so being close to power, that's one massive piece of the puzzle. But the next piece is just as critical, talent. And here, you've got a really fundamental choice to make. Do you go somewhere like Silicon Valley and pay that huge premium for the absolute top-tier niche experts in something like AI? Or do you go to a place like India, where you can build a big, high-quality team for a lower cost, giving you that power to scale like crazy? And look, it's not just about your star engineers, right? You've also got a plan for your customer support teams, and that's often a totally different talent pool. This is where location tiers come in. You've got nearshore, that's close to your market, same culture, same time zone, perfect for customer-facing stuff. Then you've got offshore, which is the classic move when you need to build huge operations and cost is a really big driver. And our last principle. Listen up, because this one is an absolute deal breaker. Regulation. And I want to be clear, these are not suggestions. These are hard and fast rules. Things like data privacy laws, GDPR, for example, can flat out stop you from operating in a certain country. Political instability can make a place way too risky. Even local labor laws can be a nightmare if you ever need to change your team size. These things can completely veto a location, no matter how perfect it looks otherwise. All right, so now we have our compass. We know the principles that are guiding us, so it's time to start drawing the blueprint. We're shifting from the why and the where to the what, as in what is the actual structure of our global sites going to look like? So most companies, when they're starting out, they go with this SBU model. It stands for Strategic Business Unit, but really, just think of it as a center of excellence. You pick one spot on the map and you build a site that is laser-focused on one single thing. Maybe it's R&D, maybe it's sales, and that one site serves the entire company globally. Now the RBU, or Regional Business Unit, this is a whole different animal. It's basically like a mini HQ for a whole region, say Europe. It's totally self-contained. It has everything it needs to run on its own: sales, support, engineering, the works. You usually see this pop up when a company gets more mature, or maybe when they acquire another company in that region. And this is where you can really see the trade-off, right? The SBU model is simple, it's focused, and it's pretty much perfect when you're just dipping your toes into global expansion. The RBU, on the other hand, gives you a ton of regional autonomy, but man, it is way more complex to manage. There's no single right answer here. It all comes down to where your company is at and what your strategy is. Okay, so we've got our guiding principles, we've got our architectural blueprint, we're good to go, right? Well,
Not quite. A plan is just a piece of paper without the right people to bring it to life. So now, let's talk about the people plan.
Here's another one for you, straight from the real world. Picture this. A company is doing a supercritical upgrade for one of their biggest clients. They run the process, and it fails. Total failure. They roll it back, they try again, fails again. Now panic is starting to set in. Their core engineering teams, scattered all over the world, are stumped. No one can find the bug. The client is screaming. So who do they call? They had this one architect, a super expensive guy they kept in San Jose, even though it went against their whole cost-cutting strategy. They call him, it's a Sunday. He's at a Starbucks, opens his laptop, and in 3 minutes, he finds the problem and tells them exactly how to fix it.
And that's the takeaway, right there, the crucial lesson. Sometimes that one exceptional person is worth more than your entire perfectly crafted site strategy. It pays, it really pays, to be flexible and to invest in that top-tier talent, even if it means you have to bend your own rules about where people are supposed to be.
So when it comes to hiring, you're almost never going to have just one approach. It's a mix. You're going to relocate some of your key leaders from HQ to really plant your company's cultural DNA in the new soil. Then you'll hire local talent because you absolutely need that local context and those connections. You might even use partnerships to get your foot in the door of a new market fast without a massive upfront cost. You need all these tools in your toolkit. Okay, let's recap. You've got your principles, you've got your blueprint, you've even got the perfect people. So, we're done, right? Mission accomplished? Not even close. Because without a powerful engine to make it all run, you're just sitting on the starting line. And that engine is process. I really want this to sink in for a second. A global company is not just a bigger version of a local company, it's a completely different creature. It has to operate across cultures, across time zones, across totally different legal systems. And if you don't build processes that are specifically designed for that insane complexity, the whole thing is just going to collapse.
And when we talk about process, it really breaks down into a few key areas. You've got the foundational stuff, finance, legal, tax. Can't mess that up. Then you have the corporate layer, like HR and IT. But honestly, the most critical part, the part where things live or die, is the daily workflow. How does work actually get handed off from one team to another when you're running a follow-the-sun model?
And there's a name for this critical moment. We call it the handshake. Think about it. It's that exact point where a support ticket gets passed from the team in the US to the team in India, or when a project goes from the developers in Israel to the QA team in Europe. This single moment, this handshake, is where your entire global operation will either succeed or fail. It demands crystal clear definitions of what done actually means, and it requires a shared understanding that goes way beyond language or cultural differences.
And that really brings us to our final and maybe most important question. You can design the most perfect, most efficient process in the world, a true masterpiece. But that process is absolutely useless if the people on both sides of that handshake don't share a culture built on trust, on clear communication, and on a real mutual desire for the team to win. So the question I'll leave you with is this. Your processes might be defined, but is your culture truly ready for the handshake?